Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For this tutorial, we are going to do something I have not done yet. This is a loaded layered number cake. This is super fun to do, and there are so many different elements that I thought I should show you guys how to do this. And I'm going to try to help you when it comes to how to assemble it too. There are a few tricks that I'm going to share with you. First trick is that I'm going to go ahead and level this in the cake pan. That just makes it easier to get both of your layers the same. And we want both, since it's two different cakes layered up, we want them to be the same height. So I just layered it in the pan and then just turned it upside down on a board. And then I'm just going to remove the parchment paper and the caramelization. For this kind of a cake design, I don't like to have the caramelization on it. I just think that kind of takes away from the final look. I like to have the nice, clean, fluffy cake showing more than anything else. So I'm just cutting off a very thin layer off of the bottom. And I didn't bother cutting off the caramelization on the sides because, unfortunately, the downside of this cakes is that you typically have a lot of waste, which you could save and make cake pops if you want to. You can make little mini cakes by cutting out shapes out of your leftover cake and then layering up that way. So don't waste it if you don't have to, or make cake jars. Those are yummy. And my boss went ahead and she drew out the number template. Now, it was a little too tall for the size of cake, but that's okay. It worked out. And I did leave a little bit of extra room around the stencil so that you could have a little bit more cake, a little less waste. And yeah, I don't like to waste any more than I have to. And these are more kind of an abstract font. I don't know what font that would be. It's not, scrolly. I'd just call it abstract. And then the other half a sheet, these are half sheet pans. I think they are 19 by, what are they? I can't remember. 19 by 13 maybe? Or 11? I think 19 by 11. Anyways, doesn't matter. And I'm just trying to make sure that since the stencils were a little smaller than the actual cake, I just tried to kind of even it out so that it made more sense. And here's one of my tricks too. If you are doing one of these cakes and your layers are thinner like this, it is so much easier to work with them if they are chilled. These bottom ones I did not chill, but the top layer I did put in the refrigerator to chill after I did the simple syrup. Because this is basically a naked cake. So you're definitely going to want to assemble this as close to the day they pick up their cake as possible, and make sure you do a simple syrup. And to keep the buttercream from squishing in between the layers, I make sure I thicken up my buttercream. And by doing that, that gives it a little bit more firmness. You don't want to use a soft buttercream in between these layers, because part of the appeal of these is seeing those pretty piped dollops in between the layers. And if it's too thin, they're just going to squish, and that would defeat the purpose. So go ahead and add a little bit of extra buttercream to firm it up. And I like this tip. This is a French tip, I believe, a large French tip. And because I like the texture in it. You don't have to do that. You could use whatever tip you want. But I do like the look of this. And I added some pale pink. This is the Color Mill blush. And I did 2 tones of this blush color. On the top, I did a lighter tone than I did in the middle. And the way I did that was I just kept my leftover and added a little bit more white buttercream to it, and it gave me some variation in color. So now that I set into the refrigerator to firm up again, because that's the other trick, like I said, is to get that buttercream. It's a crusting American buttercream that I use to get that firm before you put your top layer of cake on it. Then you don't have to worry about it at all. So 2 things: thicken up your buttercream, set it in the fridge for about, I would say, half an hour. In the meantime, I'm making some decorations, and I'm just using that white chocolate, and I'm just using a few different types of molds, the candy bar mold, and then those are like a little truffle mold. And I just melted it, and then I put it in a piping bag, like you can see, and put it into the molds that way. Once you get them in there, tap them to release air bubbles, because Using the bag helps to prevent air bubbles if you put it into your mold and you kind of squeeze the chocolate up above the tip of the bag, but there's still going to be some hidden. So go ahead and just tap them out and then put them into the freezer or the fridge until they are cool. And then I did the same thing with the Color Mill blush. It's an oil-based food coloring so that it can work with chocolate. You do not want to use a gel-based coloring, food coloring with your chocolate because it will seize up. I don't care what anybody says. It will seize up and make your job a lot harder. Now we have some macarons and some candy bars. Some little, what are those called? I can't see. I can't remember. But they're white chocolate. And we had the macarons already made for another order, so we used them on this order as well. And I'm not filling them with anything fancy. I'm just using the same crusting American buttercream. And you don't have to thicken this because you need to be able to get your other half of the shell onto there, and you don't want it to be too thick, kind of a medium consistency. And I liked how the French tip coordinated the macarons with the dollops in between the layers and on the top of the cake. And then I immediately go ahead and put the shells right back on there. I think I have a video on how to make macarons. If I didn't delete that, see those nice ridges? I just think that's really pretty. Now you could put some sprinkles in there. You could roll them in sprinkles if you want to do that. This cake was the blush and rose gold, so you could do something like that. And you would want to do that right away, especially with a crusting American buttercream, because they won't stick if it crusts. But yeah, like I was saying, go back and see. I'll see if I can find the link to my How I Make Macarons video. I will attach it in the video description. I just can't remember if I still have it on there or not because it's an older video and the video quality is not so great. I was still figuring things out. So I'm not sure if I left it there or not. But I'm just using rose gold luster dust mixed with some Everclear and using that to decorate the chocolate bars and the macarons. I just used a pastry brush for both of these. And I did the brush method on the macarons and the splatter on the chocolates. And then go ahead and set those aside to dry. And now we're going to add some gold luster to some chocolates. I just put it in the bag. I just put the chocolates in there and I just shake them up. You don't get really great coverage that way, but it is pretty. And I do like to kind of brush off the extra, and that kind of sets it into the chocolate a little bit more. And you will get a different look with dark chocolate as opposed to white chocolate. I didn't end up using the dark chocolate because I felt like it was... I didn't have enough of them to have it make sense to put them on since everything else was lighter. So, anywho, we'll use those on another project at some point. And now my chocolate bars are set up and I'm just heating up this blade. This is a clay cutting tool with my creme brulee torch to cut through those. I didn't need them all that big. And then I brushed them with some more luster dust. Now we're going to make some chocolate dipped strawberries. Who doesn't like chocolate dipped strawberries? It's one of my favorite things. And so I'm just adding a little oil, just vegetable oil. Any clear oil will work to the chocolate because I like when I'm dipping for that consistency to be a little thinner. I find that just works better for me, and oil will do that. There are also chocolate, those little melts that melt in paraffin type nibs that you can add to the chocolate as well. That works too, but I didn't have those, so I just used some vegetable oil. And then once they set up, I drizzled them with chocolate, and those toothpicks in there just help me to be able to dip them and keep the stems out of the chocolate, and also to give it something to hold on to while you're dipping them. And you just twist those out when you're done. And now I'm adding raspberries to an already decorated cake. Isn't that lovely? So thanks to modern technology and editing and corrupt files is what happened there. You don't get to see me put everything on, but I will tell you. I'm going to just tell you what I did. I went ahead and took them out of the refrigerator, piped the dollops on the top, and then I just placed everything in there. Since this buttercream was already thickened up a little bit, I need to attach things while it is still not crusted. So I got all of my elements plus some flowers. Now just make sure that your flowers are washed and dried and no pesticides were used on them. And you can wrap those stems if you want to, also to keep it even more food safe. So yeah, disappointed by the way that turned out. Not the cake itself, but the footage being corrupt. I almost didn't even edit this whole video, but there's a lot of elements that I knew I could still teach you. So I think you can figure out how I attached everything. And then there were coordinating cupcakes as well that I filmed that were in that footage. So I'm sorry about that. I hope you still liked it. I hope you still got some things out of it that you can use, and I hope you give it a try. So if you do and you would like to share with me, share on my Instagram. I would love to see what you come up with, and we'll catch you next time.